I mean, if anyone, I mean, this didn't come up later, but until later, but if anyone exudes like school shooter. Okay, if one character on that show was gonna do, and
hey Tori, don't go into school tomorrow.
And he would tell her, wasn't he in love with her a little bit?
He was in love with all the he dates Kat at some point, and especially through the slap.com. Like he imagines scenarios where he's dating all the other female cast. There's a great line when he's doing it with Trina. And it's just like, I know what you're doing. You're doing that thing where you pretend like cute girls are in love with you. And the camera guy's like, no, this one's about you.
Chicago. Chicago.
All right. I feel like at this point, we should probably
I feel like we have something.
Yes, there's something in there.
There's a clip.
Welcome, one and all, to the Nostalgia Hour podcast. We have a very special guest with us today. Would you like to introduce yourself, or how would you like to do this?
I want to see what you have to say.
Okay.
I want to see how you're going to do it.
You have such a nice smile right now. It looks like you think we're on camera. Like, you have like a picture perfect smile right now.
Well, you know what's so funny? Every time I was picturing this, I was thinking of it as if there was going to be a recording because I don't really listen to a ton of podcasts that are just audio. A lot of it is like TikTok clips of podcasts that are then recorded.
Yeah.
So right now I'm thinking of like, have you ever seen like Basement Yard?
No.
It's like two guys who were like, they've just been friends forever, and it's just
okay. So
hilarious.
like 90% of this podcast, yeah.
Yeah. So it's really it's just this, but you have the visual of them recording it as they're doing it. So there's no like visual gimmick, but it's just them. And so I've just been thinking like or like Anna Sitar's like Anna's Guide, like. It's like she's aesthetically on a couch. So I've just been thinking like I feel like I am. I know I'm not. But
at some point, I would love to incorporate video. I'm doing all the editing myself, so I'm like I'm gonna save myself that one thing.
Oh, definitely fair. I mean, podcasts are meant to be heard. That's the whole. Yeah.
Although I will say for the audience, you're giving a lot of poise right now. I'm giving just like grungy podcasts. I'm like hunched in front of the mic. Anyway, I was supposed to be introducing you.
No, go on.
We have the wonderful, funny, and very intelligent. She's in law school right now. One of my best friends and a ballroom dance enthusiast. The wonderful Nicole O'Connor.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Happy to have you. And what are we talking about today?
We're talking about the Twilight movies.
Yes.
We watched them all together. I think within a year period. A lot of them we watched in this room. And then when you came to see me in Boston, we watched, I think the last couple, and then we watched Vampire Suck as well.
We watched it in a weird order as well.
We watched it out of order, but because some of them are better than others.
I think we started with Breaking Dawn Part 2. Either that or we went from Twilight to Breaking Dawn Part 2.
I think we went from Twilight to Breaking Dawn Part 2, and I think the reason for that was because I had rewatched New Moon and Eclipse at one point, and I realized that both of they were a little bit dry compared to... No, we went Breaking Dawn Part 1 and then Breaking Dawn Part 2. Okay. I think we watched...
Okay.
We might have watched that in Boston. We definitely saw Vampires Suck in Boston.
Yeah.
Breaking Dawn Part 1 is the best one, I will say.
Interesting. I feel like there's...
In my opinion.
I feel like there's so much waiting in Breaking Dawn Part 1. It's just like... The first like 20, 30 minutes is like really nice and cute. And then it's a lot of she is pregnant and we need to make sure that Bella doesn't die. And that's what my head has saved as what happens in Breaking Dawn Part 1. Which
that is how it happens in Breaking Dawn Part 1. Well, it has a good and there's a lot of tension. I feel like for New Moon and Eclipse, there was a point where I couldn't even really remember who the villains were. Because I felt like honestly James and Victoria, I know that they had the capacity to destroy the Cullens and they were coming after them and they were feral and the Cullens don't like to kill or whatever. But they were, how do I say it? There wasn't a meaningful origin of beef.
Yeah, it's just like she's building an army now. Life for a life. And it's like...
And it wasn't, no one was alive at that. Like James was a vampire. And then also... I don't know, find a new boyfriend. Like he wasn't like I know
He's
he was
not that special.
No, like I know he was the one with abs or whatever. And like if I were saying that about
Did
like
they
Esme
not
and
all
Carla,
have abs?
No, they did. He just like remember he was wearing Victoria's coat at one point and he was wearing when he was killing the guy in the boat.
Yeah.
And he pulled it back and he
Yeah.
was wearing the fur coat and he was like, well, like
He was slang,
whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, no, he ate, but I just think I don't know. They didn't there wasn't like the werewolves and the vampires. I get that. There's a long history there. They show a lot of flashbacks. We understand what that's about.
Hot take. I don't know if it's ever stated. I feel like the vampires were the ones that started the beef. Because
I'm trying to remember the I'm trying to recall please no finish. I'm trying to recall the origins to form an opinion.
Because I was thinking about it now, and apparently to vampires, werewolves really stank.
Yeah.
And I feel like they're probably just so pretentious. It's just like, these people stink. They're dirty. We don't like them. Or just so pretentious and like had such a superiority complex that they just really just egged on the whole thing that caused this, forever long beef.
That's true. And the vampires, how do I say it? They were coming onto their land.
That's another thing.
Which I don't know what part any vampires would have had in the reservation system or whatever. But like that was their beach.
Yeah.
That was very much their beach and like their territory. I don't know if part of it maybe was that, because the thing about vampires is that or the Cullens at least, not all the vampires, they're always very jealous of like people and things that are alive. So I feel like that might be.
I fully agree with you, but like what are some examples that really, because I can't think of specific examples, even though I completely agree with you.
Well, Rosalie is always telling Bella she doesn't want to be a vampire
true.
because Rosalie just wanted to have babies all the time, and Bella could, and she was like, "You're giving this up, like that's insane." And then also, that was why she waited 3 movies, because Edward wouldn't do it.
Yeah. Like literally in the second one, I think is when they make it canon, just like, we do not have souls. Hey, Bella, I kind of don't like that I don't have a soul, and I think you should think about it for more than 2 seconds.
Yeah, Bella was never mature, which actually, since Edward became a vampire at like 17, that's kind of a mature take for him as somebody who can't change psychologically or physically.
Right.
To then form that opinion and be like, yeah, not just want like think of like anyone at 17, you're like, yeah, you want your girlfriend who you're in like deep puppy love with.
I feel like even though he probably has like some minor chemical imbalances, like he's finished puberty. He's just not like, I think 25 is when you're like
frontal lobe. Yeah, he didn't.
Yeah,
that never finished.
But
and especially for Bella.
He's been alive, what, 400 years?
No, he's new. Only died. He's pretty new. He was killed in the Spanish influenza outbreak. He died in like 1918. He's young.
I'm mixing
as
it
far
up
as
with Jasper, who was a Civil War vet.
Jasper was, but that's not even that much longer. That's only from the Civil War to the Spanish flu. That's
so
like
true.
That's like a 50-year difference.
Man, who's the longest? Who's the oldest Cullen child?
None of them are that old.
That's it. I mean, I guess still, if you've lived 100 years, then you would probably gain some experience and knowledge, even if you're like a little bit, your frontal lobe is missing. Because I feel like if me at 17 lived 100 years, I feel like I'd be pretty well mentally there.
Yeah,
personally.
Even if you're not maturing, the experience has to have an
Plus,
effect
Edward's
on you.
so emo, so he knows something that the rest of the crowd doesn't.
Exactly. And even like if you talk to, so I work in a retirement home, and if you talk to like your average 80-year-old, like someone who's 80, 85 even, let's say, who's not depressed, who's well functioning, who's able to take care of themselves, they're not looking to live to 100. Like I've had conversations where they're like, I just don't want it to get worse than this. 100, like 13 even more years of my life is too long. I don't need it. So Edward's probably just like over it, as over it as can be. And imagine, like, I had a great time in high school. I loved my high school. If I had to do it for
that's the thing that gets me the most upset.
76 more years.
What? I've asked you this before, and you've definitely given me an answer. Why are they going to high school and not college?
I don't know. I
thought you had.
I think it might be one of those things where, like, how adults in or teenagers in movies and TV are always casted older. So I guess in the cinematic universe, they probably
still
look
look
like they're in
17.
high school. But they should just go to college and like, or you're telling me
would
they don't
learn
have enough
so much more in college. And it's not, we know it's not a money issue.
Right.
Because they have a doctor and a bank that can see the future.
No, literally. So I don't really understand what that was about. I mean, I don't think that they definitely weren't choosing that. None of them were like high school minded. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Rosalie was very much like, Rosalie was like an adult woman. She was very like, much like Emmett's wife. Like that's who she wanted to be. There was no really need for like if anything, you would want them to age out of their foster care system.
Right.
So nobody would be tracking that anymore.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons for them to be 18 plus. And then thinking about that, it's so funny how there was a very dramatic scene in part 2 when Bella was getting the passports and the birth certificate for Renesmee and Jacob so they could run away together if they got killed in the battle with the Volturi.
Right, because she was already looking like 6. Or rather, she looked like the Megan doll. Because for those of you who haven't seen Breaking Dawn in a while, just the worst animation, whatever you want to call it, on that baby that has ever existed.
But she was older than the baby at that point. She was like Renesmee the kid. Like,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But
even her getting the passport was like a big deal. You would think that they would just know how to fake documentation by now. Like God knows, like they needed. She brought in a third party. There was that guy that she had dinner with him or whatever.
If they've been around for 100+ years, the amount of times that they've had to refake the identification of every single person in the Cullen family.
Yeah, like you think it would just be something that they would do. I mean, their side hustle of making fake IDs, untraceable fake IDs alone, would carry. Like Carlisle wouldn't even have to be a doctor.
Yeah.
So I forgot what my original point was with that.
I mean, granted, again, Carlisle does not need to be a doctor for the money. Again, they have someone who can see into the future, and historically, right, just has like known where to like put money so that they just have a lot of it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Alice definitely helped with that, and then he's also a doctor, and like they moved to these small towns so they can stay hidden as well. So I can only imagine that their house didn't cost that much. Like
that's so.
And
true.
they don't eat.
Oh,
they don't eat. Like they don't eat. They don't need. Think about all the things that they don't need. They don't eat. They don't need heating. Yeah. They have like the cars, but they don't really need the cars because they can
They're
run.
faster than cars.
They're faster than cars, and then also they don't sleep, so they can just go anywhere and do whatever. Like like if they go somewhere, they don't really need like a hotel. And also, who's gonna come after their debt? Like they don't. It just doesn't. It doesn't track.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Also, Carlisle, he's doing because he cares for people, but also just Carlisle is is just the best character in my opinion.
He did that because he wanted to know that he could. He wasn't really trying to. I mean, I think he kind of was, but I think if he was really trying to help people, he would have listened to Rosalie when she said, "Hey, I hate this. Don't do this to anyone else. I'm infertile now, and I will always have to deal with that."
But she was dying, right?
She was dying, but she didn't ask for that.
That's true. I mean, she can still. I don't want to say she can still kill herself, but like the choice.
But she's not gonna go to heaven. Like they don't have souls. So
that
she's
is a
like,
big thing.
I may as well just stay here with like Emmett, and now I have Renesmee, and we have like the family, and I have something. If she dies, it's just over.
Yeah. So Carlisle never asks any of them if they want to become a vampire. He just does it and then deals with the consequences.
Yeah, they're really not in situations where they can.
Make a good son.
They're not really in. From what I remember, none of them are in really consent situations when they. I know, which is a weird way to say it.
Because Edward, I feel like I remember the clip where he like basically looked unconscious.
He was dying of the Spanish flu. I forget why. I feel like they kind of explained why Carlisle chose him. I think it was just because he felt bad for him or something like that. Rosalie specifically, she had just been raped by her fiance and his friends on the street, and she was bleeding out, and he was walking by.
No wonder she's upset.
Yeah, no, she's upset. She didn't want that. out of everyone.
What possessed
Emmett.
Carlisle to be like, this person?
I think he felt bad for her because she was like a young girl, and he
Of
was like,
course.
I can give her a chance to like have like stay alive and have something. Emmett actually, Rosalie did that to Emmett. Emmett got attacked by a bear, I think, and she brought him to Carlisle and was like, "This is my man," and that's what happened. Alice was in a mental hospital because she kind of had her gift as when she was alive, kind of how Bella did.
She was in a mental hospital?
Yeah, she was committed because she used to have visions of stuff, and then I think her mom died and her dad committed her, and she was just and Carlisle helped her escape because I don't know if they were gonna lobotomize her, something like that. She was gonna get some kind of thing, and Carlisle was like, "No, I believe I can get you." Kind of how Bella was impervious to Edward seeing her thoughts. Like she had the premonitions of her gift in life. And that was why she was like that. Esme.
I found my bank. I need to take it home with me.
No, I mean, for one reason or another. I mean, that was how Aro chose the Volturi.
Right.
That's why he wanted, wanted Alice, actually.
One thing about, and I think Alice is the name of her character. Have you seen the Cat in the Hat movie?
The live one?
Yeah, the live action.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
One of my favorite movies, but I was like, I wonder what the kids have done since because I feel like I haven't seen them. And the boy, he's been in a couple of things. He was in the Santa Claus movies. He was like the number 2 elf.
Bernard?
No, Curtis. The one that shows up in 2 and 3.
Maybe I kind of remember that. I haven't seen. Yeah.
He was in hit movie Zoom with Tim Allen.
A lot of Tim Allen.
Yeah.
For that kid. Yeah.
But the girl, the only thing that I recognized her in, or the biggest thing, is that she is that member of the Volturi. I think that's like her biggest acting credit since.
Wait, who?
The girl.
Jane?
The one that like causes pain to people.
Elle Fanning.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did.
She was the child in The Cat in the Hat.
Oh yeah, she was. She's done other stuff than that though. She got more famous after.
Maybe I just never recognized. I was just like, oh, I haven't seen this show. But it's just funny to think like, oh, she's little Sally, and then she's also vampire that hurts people for a living.
I know. She was hilarious. I liked her character. Mm-hmm. Just watching her do it, like she would get this look on it. She was good.
Yeah,
she was really good. She like lured. No, she was the one. There was a different one who lured all the people down there. Because remember in Eclipse when they're coming down and Alice was like, I know that Bella's going to be a vampire.
Am I right?
No, that was New Moon. That was the end of New Moon when she goes to Italy.
Oh, yes.
And they're luring all the people down there. Mm-hmm. And that's how they get them down there.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, but Esme actually, Carlisle did that for himself. He was like in love with her from like a long time ago. And she had like a shitty husband. Right. And then she was also dying.
There's so much trauma in the Cullen family.
There is a lot of, like a lot. And then Jasper was a civil war. I don't remember why Carlisle saved him.
I think it was just because he was a good warrior or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know if that.
I don't know.
I think Alice.
Jasper has always been weird to me because, first of all, he gives psychopath. Mm-hmm. Just every time I see him, especially in the first 2 movies, he just gives psychopath that shouldn't be allowed near humans for a family that does not eat humans.
They let him out too soon.
Yeah.
Like the birthday party.
Yeah.
The wild birthday party where Edward pushes her into more glass. He was trying, I think.
New Moon gives me such, I don't know where I fall in the Edward Jacob sort of debacle, but that everything in New Moon makes me so anti-Edward that, if there is indifference in me, I think it leans towards Jacob just because Edward, I feel like just did everything wrong in New Moon.
He did.
Just
that's correct.
Left her with no warning and then let her be devastatingly depressed for 6 months. Only shows up when she's about to kill herself, which only encourages her to try and kill herself more to see him again.
Was that real though, or was that just her having delusions? Because never in the other movies, or even I read the books a long time ago, so I don't know if it pops up. But I think she might have just been that depressed
That she was seeing visions.
Yeah, like I don't think that was him popping up on purpose. I think that was her like having a. Well, here's the thing.
Honestly,
she was in
I
a
like
room.
that read so much better. That
he was in a room.
Yeah.
That makes me laugh so hard. I thought that that's what like breakups were like.
People make fun of Kristen Stewart so much for her acting in Twilight, but honestly, I don't see it too much. Like it's more so the writing and the character rather than the actress. But her screaming in New Moon, it's like it just.
Nobody does that.
No one does.
You don't scream like that for real.
It sounds like she's pretending to be killed too. It doesn't sound like she's being killed. It sounds like she's pretending to be killed.
Yeah. And like poor Charlie. Like Charlie Charlie was not equipped. And it's so funny because Charlie is such a better dad in the movies than he is in the books.
Right.
Like in the books, he's like terrible. And I feel like that's kind of the way the way she is in the books is the way she is in the movies kind of, but it makes sense because she's just like, he's just using her as like a stay-at-home wife type. And he knew how to do all the things he did before she came to live with him. And then he just stopped doing all of those things. Charlie's actually trying to be a good dad when he's like, I need you to go live with your mother. Like, I can't do this. But Renee was an even worse parent than Charlie was because she just kind of... Bella was also deeply unwanted. Like, let's talk about that. Like, Renee was not a good mom. Like, Bella was parenting Renee. And then Charlie... What is that? Charlie in the books was just using her, but also he didn't know how to parent. So like even in the movies, she got there and then he became protective. He tried. Like he bought her the truck. And
it was like, the truck was very nice, but wasn't like everything in the house like left as like what a 6-year-old would want. It was just like, oh yeah, I got you some glitter and some, I don't know.
Yeah, he got her like the purple sheet. Well, like the purple sheets were like normal.
Was it just? I thought it was like a whole pink room with like unicorns and like. Whatever.
That was.
Was that Vampire?
That was Vampire Suck. That was Vampire because that was the point that they were making was like he didn't know, and that's a really good example of I guess just someone who didn't try to find out at all. Like you must assume that he had spoken to. Maybe not Renee, because Renee doesn't know anything, but like spoken to Bella directly in the process of the move and been like, hey, like, what are you going to bring? What should I pick up for you? Or at the very least, like, there's got to be like
some sheets and whatever.
Yeah, there's got to be like a Pottery Barn in Seattle that we could hit together.
I can
like
get my daughter the best daughter's themed
sheets
she's ever seen. He's doing 4D chess with these kids.
It didn't look that bad in the movie, though. Like, the walls were kind of green. Like, the bedspread was purple. They make a big deal out of that in the books. They mention that several times. And it's not that bad. It's not that bad. There's a nice little window for her boyfriend to climb into. It's really, like, he makes it nice for her. Yeah. He really makes it nice for her. And so, movie Charlie, I don't blame him. And then also, like, from a parent's perspective, with the running away to Arizona to the... Like, first of all, Arizona's far geographically.
Where are they? It's Forks, but like Michigan?
Washington.
Washington.
So she's all the way up in the corner. And then they have to go to... She says she's running away with Edward. And they go to the dance studio in Arizona. Like, who wouldn't want to be like, I don't want to deal with that shit anymore? Yeah. I don't think I've ever remotely considered... I could never even... I fell asleep on the train yesterday. For a few hours. My mom not only had all of my siblings calling and texting me, she went through Instagram DMs to try to reach me. They went through Instagram DMs.
Oh, she didn't answer her phone. She must be on Instagram.
She knew I was on the train though. So like I can't imagine just walking to my house and being like, you failed and I'm going several states south. And have her not like have a heart. Like I don't understand how he was able to.
Unrelated but important question.
Sure.
If you were a vampire, do you think there would ever be a point in your life where you're like, you know, it'd be a good idea watching someone sleep for 8 hours every single day?
I feel like that's less about being a vampire and more about the lack of frontal lobe. I feel like that's a very 17-year-old move.
17-year-old boys, if they were given just no sleep, they'd be like, hey, what are my girls doing? Because she's asleep right now. I bet she looks super cute. And that's all I want to do for the next 8 hours.
Well, I think he had kind of like exhausted his options. Like, first of all, he wasn't sleeping. Second of all, I think he's from the
He could be working on his GED. He could graduate high school after 100 years.
But like for what? No, I think he's graduated high school he has several high school degrees. I think
the wall of just high school degrees that they have.
The caps at the wedding.
Right, yeah.
I don't think he had anything else to do. I think, well, he's an old man.
Yes.
So he's from like the 1800s. If he died in, well, no. So
1900s.
He was born, I was thinking he was born in he wasn't. He was born in 1901.
Right.
So I think modern ways of like entertaining himself just didn't appeal to him very much. Well, because you think about, you go into the bedroom, he doesn't have the bed.
Only Fortnite had been existed yet.
But I think Fortnite existed during their marriage. No.
And that's how their marriage ended.
Well, because she goes into his bedroom. There's no bed, of course. It's all CDs. There could have been like a TV. There could have been several other things in there, and there just weren't. So I think that he was just that bored and that down bad for her, as a combination of being a 17-year-old who was born in 1901. I think that was just how he wanted to spend his time.
I mean, we weren't alive during the 1900s. Men all the time were watching their wives sleep. No,
they were suspicious.
I'm really harping on this thing, but it's just like I can't. As someone who tries to be an empathetic person, I'm just like, there's got to be some rational reason that if someone who just had supernatural abilities and nothing to do, I guess maybe that's. I just can't ever see myself in a place where I would have the attention span to watch someone. It's like watching paint dry. It's the equivalent of like before Bella went into his life, he just went to a wall, got his favorite Bears paint, little paintbrush, put one slab of paint on the wall, and just stared at it for 8 hours. To me, there's no difference.
Well, if you have 100 years of like no goals, of nothing you really need to accomplish, the only thing you need to accomplish is graduating high school again, which at this point is so easy.
They're all just filled with nihilism.
No, really, and they all like hate being alive.
At least the rest of them are in relationships. Isn't he like the only Cullen that's not in a relationship?
He was the only one who wasn't in a relationship.
Family?
Yeah, he is the only one who wasn't in a relationship. I don't know. I just think that they should.
He was just seventh wheeling super hard, and I was just like, I need to get out of the house. Well, I have a girl to stalk.
They were all also like super horny all the time in the house. Like Emmett and Rosalie like absolutely were. And then Alice was like managing Jasper as if he was like an alcoholic. Like she very much had like that role. Carlisle and Esme were just doing their own thing because obviously they weren't parenting.
Right.
And so I can imagine man just being like so bored.
That the being the only single person in a house full of just three other couples are in your lives, obnoxiously so, for 100 years. Yeah, I guess I would be in a different place. Yeah,
I think it makes a lot of sense to me. It makes a lot of sense.
I'm glad that we had this discussion. This makes me feel better.
Good. Yeah.
This is what this whole podcast is about. Mm-hmm. I've had this podcast around for over a year, and it was just to answer this one question. Why is Edward stalking this girl while she sleeps?
Well, also he was horny. Let's talk about that. He was, look, for his biological age.
During the whole conversation where it's just like, and how could you stop me? I'm a killer. It is giving sexual tension from someone who's telling you not to have sex with them.
All of Eclipse was just about how much she wanted to have sex with him before she got turned into a vampire. That was the whole thing. And then their honeymoon was, and I give him credit for feeling bad that he was like, she was getting hurt. Like I get that from him. I don't know.
I just think pillow princess.
But then they had sex like a few times. Like I think like after like the first time, I think that she could have just done, well, because they didn't think they were gonna have kids. Right. And I think at one point Bella says in the books that she doesn't even want to have kids. Like she's not even really interested. She definitely was. Oh my god, they go into this so much in the books where she like hates having a girl. Right. She kind of hates Renesmee. Yeah. Like
I enjoyed what you talked about it the first time. Please just share with the rest of the class.
Well, First of all, the diabolical nature of naming your son after both your current husband and your like ex-boyfriend who's actively in love with you. Mm-hmm. Oh, and she just wanted to be a boy mom so bad because she wanted. It's interesting because I feel like a girl was kind of the best of both worlds. It's because Edward would have hated a boy so much. He would have been jealous, and he would have
because
resented.
No frontal lobe.
Yeah, and he would have resented. Like, have you ever seen that thing on TikTok where, like, I don't know what this podcast is rated for maturity, but like, have you ever seen that thing on?
This is not for children.
This is not. So neither are the Twilight books, apparently, if you really look into them. But there was, I don't think it was an article, but it was something like a man got mad at his wife who was like freshly postpartum, and he was like, "You shouldn't be breastfeeding our son. Another man is like sucking on your tits." Have you seen? No. I feel like that's how Edward would feel about their son. But at the same time, Renesmee, pretty quickly after the movie is over, will be mature enough to realize that she is jealous of Renesmee and also didn't desire a girl at all. Mm-hmm. But she really wanted a boy. Like, she was very convinced it was a boy her entire pregnancy. And then if you listen to her talk...
I could feel it's a boy.
Yeah, well, she was very convinced it was a boy.
Right, was calling it by the boy's name, right?
EJ.
Yep.
Well, she only brought that up right before she broke her back and like crashed the fuck out and had to. We'll get to that. Right. We'll get to that. But every time she and Edward talk about it, they're like, "Oh, him." They're like, "Oh, our son." Like, there's that one scene when they're sitting on the couch together and Jacob's kind of looking like over. He's about to leave the house, but he's looking over, and I think it's the first time that Bella feels Renesmee move, and Edward's like, "Oh, he likes my voice as well," and they're having like a moment, but all the time it's like he, him, my son.
Yeah.
And that's
Dead
very
naming the child.
Yeah. And that's very much what it's all about. And then like Renesmee's a girl and she's so disappointed.
I mean, if I saw that terrible animation, I'd probably be disappointed too.
But they did a good job, I feel like, in the first, when Jacob first sees the baby. And also, like, Jacob doesn't want to kill. Yeah. Jacob doesn't want to kill the girl, though. Jacob wants to kill the baby as a boy. Everyone wants to kill that baby. Did Jacob
want to kill the baby?
Jacob wanted to kill the baby because he thought the baby killed Bella, because he thought...
Oh, right.
Remember, because they start howling and they... Well, Bella did die. Like, there was a period between...
Technically, she's still dead. She's a vampire.
Yeah, but they thought the venom... Remember, because he had that huge-ass syringe of his own venom they put straight in her heart, and he's like biting her everywhere. And he bites the baby out. Do you remember that?
Goodness. No, I don't.
I think Rosalie cuts her with the scalpel to do like the C-section, and it just gets worse. But there's with like, I think the werewolves, because their animals are more sensitive, whatever, they're howling. They think that Bella has died. Everyone thinks that Bella has died between the birth, when she goes still and Edward's like,
yeah.
And that's not again, nobody can see what I'm doing. And
you did the when everyone thinks of like
CPR.
Yeah. I was like, when everyone thinks of like what hand action you do with the sound, they don't need to see it.
I think they get it. Yeah. And when she opens her eyes right at the very end of the movie, she is like dead. Like, they're not sure, because remember, Edward's like cleaning her up, and with the bowl of like bloody water. I felt like y'all have running water. I don't know why you're doing it that way. I thought that a lot. I was like, you don't just anyway. And Carla's like, no, listen to her heart. And so I was like, I mean, everyone knew she was coming back, but because it was a whole nother movie. But Edward was going in there to kill the baby,
right?
And then sees Rosalie holding it and like drops to his knees really dramatic. And like, it's like the love of my life.
Do you you finish your thought first?
No, go ahead, ask the question, because I think I'm about to get to what you're...
Do you think I feel like it's possibly implied, but do you think the only reason that Jacob liked Bella in the first place is because his wolf
Renesmee's egg?
Yeah, essentially.
That's what he said. He said that.
I thought it was like during the pregnancy, like I want to be near you because I didn't realize I was in love with your fetus, and the part of you that loves me was really just Renesmee the whole time. See, you hate me right now. It's not because I fell in love with your infant daughter. It was
because of your eggs.
your silly woman hormones. That's all it is.
I don't think.
Also,
it's just so hard to see that as real and valid. Like,
what was going on through Stephenie Meyer's mind?
I just think she needed a way to like reconcile the characters and then also end the feud.
Guys, don't worry, Team Jacob. He gets a girl too.
He gets someone. Well, I think that.
Did you weigh in on Team Edward, Team Jacob? I don't think
I didn't. Yet. I was always Team Edward. Mm-hmm. Edward's more my type. Mm-hmm. I like the family aspect. I kind of like the family. Like, I kind of like them. I think that they're very good at protecting Bella. They do bring her in very fast. Yeah. They are like good to her. And then like things are more stable with that. Like, they have money. Like, have you ever seen? They have money. Like, they're not like most of them, except for Jasper, which like wouldn't be a problem. Like, they have a very good handle on not eating people.
Which also, like, I think about like Team Jacob, and it's just like, oh yeah, well, you know, Jasper tried to eat her. If there ever became a thing, like Edward maybe can't help herself. Her blood's super delicious. But
yeah,
there is the one like werewolf wife that looks like they're from a house of domestic abuse.
That was domestic abuse.
Wrong.
That was domestic abuse. It was.
But he couldn't help it. It's just his werewolf hormone.
It was. And then what was the thing about? There was that other werewolf
I shouldn't
woman.
be laughing about domestic abuse.
And she stayed. So she was a battered woman.
Yeah.
I forget her name. It wasn't Leah, because Leah was a werewolf herself.
Right.
It was
If it mattered, you would have remembered her name.
I know. I do remember her story because I remember that she was making muffins and Bella went in there.
She was such a sweet lady. I love her.
She was like, she didn't deserve that.
Yeah.
And like, I wouldn't want to put myself in that situation and also like, I'm not big into the beach. Like they are. So I just feel like we wouldn't.
Hot take. I don't like the beach at all.
I don't love the beach.
I don't. The biggest thing is like the germaphobe in me that I suppress hates having sand anywhere.
No, I don't like that. And it's hot.
Yeah.
And then, you eat the sandwich that you bring right away. And then what do you do? And then what are you waiting for? And also, I'm afraid of like wildlife.
The good thing about going to the beach is eating sandwich.
No, seriously. And if it's like too hot, like I'm not for it. Mm-hmm. I'm afraid. I respect and fear the sea. Like, I don't. It's just not really for me. I did find out though that when I was at Carly's, like I am a lake person now.
Oh, I love the lake.
I'm very
love
much a lake
looking at
person.
The water and the woodsy feel to it too.
Yeah, I didn't fear the lake at all. I know there were like fish and shit in there, but I didn't fear it because I think that was fine. Mm-hmm. But in terms of the imprinting,
Why'd you have to say it twice?
I said imprinting.
Oh, I didn't hear it.
I was just wrong. But somebody in the audience might, and I didn't want to embarrass myself.
Mm-hmm. I thought you were just. It felt very reminiscent of just the word imprinting itself. It's like imprinting.
Yeah.
Imprinting.
Like, yeah, I'm gonna sing a song.
Anyway, the thing about the imprinting.
It doesn't bother me as much as it bothers some people. And I feel like maybe part of that is because.
Well, also isn't part of the narrative originally, before Jacob, it's like imprinting happens on like your romantic love of your life. And then it's like, well, this could also be why people imprint. And then it's like, okay. I just feel like the narrative.
Sorry, go ahead.
The narrative that is originally set is that if you imprint on someone, you are romantically attracted to them.
Well, if you think about nature, like think about like ducks, for example.
Okay.
Like they imprint on their mothers. So like when people have ducks, they're like, oh, I have to be there when it's born because the first thing it sees it imprints. And then if I leave this duckling, it'll die. Renesmee also didn't really have like parents. So I don't think it's like the worst thing in the world. I think what we saw was the result of like romantic affection. Even in part 2,
we see how good it is for Jacob to be there because Jacob can take care of Renesmee should something happen to the two of them, and they can deal with the vampire stuff. like it's essentially having like a guardian angel or like a godfather. Like Jacob is a good second dad.
Exactly. And like, it's very much like non-sexual in the movies and books. And he says that, and he's like, this is he's like, I don't control it. This is a baby. Yeah. I know I'm going to be around her for the rest of my life, but I'm not like attracted to this child.
Yeah.
And he does a good job of taking care of her. Like he is like, like he comes with them to see all the family. Like he goes to Denali in Alaska to see, Irina's sisters after Irina portrays them. That's very much not like, I don't really have a problem with it so much because it's like an appropriate type of relationship when she's a kid.
Yeah.
And then also he was going to be in her life anyway. If Jacob had like become like a child molester, I'd have a serious problem with it. But I think that I don't think the concept of it was necessarily necessary. I don't think it was really the happy ending that people wanted for Jacob.
Right.
Either. But I'd rather that than just being one of the werewolf girlfriends. Because I also feel like they're not very nice. Like Sam.
That's fair.
They
all have anger issues.
They do. They really do. And when Sam was...
Edward is not a model boyfriend, especially in New Moon.
Yeah.
But
it's nice to have a man that's obsessed with you. And Jacob was obsessed. Jacob was obsessed, but in like a... How do I say it? Like
where's my hug at? Kind of way?
Yeah, exactly. Edward was obsessed in like, this is a love of my life and I would die for her type of way, but this is me trying to keep her safe. And he wasn't wrong. I mean, the Volturi was a real threat.
Yeah.
Like, she shouldn't have wanted to be around that. And also, I get, none of them wanted to be her to be a vampire because she was making a choice that they thought was wrong. So he was doing what he genuinely thought was the best thing for her, and I get that. And then he did, like, well, he didn't even come back. He tried to kill himself, and then she just showed up in Italy and didn't let him.
It was just like, there's a funeral, I guess I gotta kill myself.
It was a festival. It was...
No, like, because wasn't the inciting incident that Jacob was just like, oh yeah, someone died, Edward. And he's like, oh man, that has to be Bella. I guess I'm gonna go kill myself.
Oh yeah, I don't remember.
There's some phone call where like Jacob answered the phone, and whatever the wording was, he was convinced that Bella was now dead.
That's right. I don't remember what it was. It wasn't a bear attack because that was the first movie when everyone was convinced that the vampires were actually like bears that were killing people.
Right.
I don't remember what it was.
Who's to say? Yeah. Well, I would say like 40 minutes in.
Uh-huh.
And every episode that I do some kind of segment.
Okay.
And so I wanted to do it before we run out of time. Mm-hmm. But also, we've been talking a lot about just like the immaturity of a lot of these characters, especially Bella. And what I thought would be fun is I found some good quotes of Bella and possibly other characters in the Twilight series. I didn't do the best research. And then I also looked up some fan fiction and tried to find like really cringe quotes. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to do a game of like, if you can determine which one is Twilight and which one is fanfic.
That would be great. Because Twilight is cringy in itself, really.
It reads like, or it sounds like fan fiction. It sounds like each line is written as fan fiction.
The fact that 50 Shades of Grey is Twilight fan fiction is insane. So I didn't see 50 Shades of Grey, so that might impact my ability.
I didn't do anything 50 Shades of Grey because
okay.
First of all, I don't know anything about 50 Shades of Grey, but also I was like, it might just be too obvious because 50 Shades is too well known.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I don't know why I started with this one because this one's so weird. I have considered radioactive spiders and kryptonite.
Oh, that's real.
Where is that from? I just saw that line. I was like, huh?
That's from Bella. It's around the oh no, it's from You're pale and ice cold. It's from that. It's part of it from before. It's like what am I? Say it's from that. It's from
you're either a vampire or you're bitten by a radioactive
spider. She's in the woods and he's about to show up because she knows he's like in the trees or something. And that's from that speech.
Okay. Death is peaceful, easy. Life is harder.
Oh yeah, that's from Eclipse.
Yeah.
That's from the end. Because they do that Robert Frost poem at the beginning and the end.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's from, or maybe it's not Eclipse. Maybe it's the first one where she almost dies, and I think that's where that comes in.
Okay.
It might have been when she's. It's from one of those. I think.
Okay. We were strong. Together, we were invincible.
Is that from Breaking Dawn?
Is that your guess?
Yeah.
No, it's fan fiction.
Okay. That sounded like something she would say after she became a vampire. Totally.
I will say, I feel like a lot of the Twilight ones are going to be super obvious, and as we get on, the fan fictions are going to become less and less realist. Like, it will be easier and easier to suss out, I think. I can't bring myself to regret the decisions that brought me face to face with death. They also brought me to Edward.
Oh, totally. That's from the movie. That's part of the voiceover. I don't even know if that's specifically in the book, but it's definitely in like the voiceover part.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's say for argument's sake, I'm not smart. Would you tell me the truth?
Oh, that could be either one. I'm going to say fan fiction.
That's real.
Oh, which movie is that?
I don't know. I should have wrote down which movie each one was from. And I was just like, they're all Bella. That's,
yeah.
Could you at least act human? I mean, I've got neighbors.
That's real, because I think he was coming up through the window.
That is.
Yeah. Or no. That's when he jumps in the bed of the truck. He jumps in the bed of the truck in the driveway, and she's like, "Hey, what the fuck was that?"
It really is none of my business where you go anymore, is it, Edward?
I don't think Bella would ever really say that. I think that's fan fiction.
It is fan
yeah.
fiction.
She's
it's
too
supposed
obsessed.
to be like post New Moon, where it's just like Edward tried to kill himself, and it's like, what if Bella was super petty about the whole thing?
She doesn't have that in her. That's
No,
unrealistic.
no.
No. She could never be.
Her standing up for herself when it comes to her vampire boyfriend? Absolutely not.
No.
Fate. It's hard to believe that such a simple word could weigh so heavily on a person's mind.
When it's real quick, are these all going to be movie quotes, or are there some book quotes as well?
It could be book quotes. I didn't do the best research as to exactly where it came from.
Okay.
There also might be some that weren't from Bella specifically, but I tried to make it as much Bella as possible.
I feel like that's a fanfic.
It is fan fiction.
Okay.
You don't know a thing about his soul.
Oh, that's real.
That's so
that's so real.
Only I understand Edward like that. Maybe I shouldn't be dating such an old man. It's gross. I should be thoroughly repulsed.
That's from the prom scene.
Is that
in the movie? Yeah, I think they might be under the gazebo. If I'm wrong about that, I'm gonna be upset. But no, they're in the gazebo when she's dancing with the broken foot. I think that's
all I
that's
remember from prom is in the gazebo. In my head, they spend the entire prom there.
They basically do, because she's not a girl's girl, and she like gets rid of all her friends.
She's such a bad friend.
She is such a bad friend.
Anna Kendrick tries to help.
No, literally, and the girl from Ned's Declassified.
Right, but even the only time that she goes back to her friends is when Edward leaves him, which is like the fakest thing you could possibly do.
Oh, totally.
Hello, biceps. You know, anabolic steroids are really bad for you.
That's real.
That is real.
That's real. I think.
I'm assuming that's during the pregnancy.
No, I feel like that's from like the first thing that pops in my head is like when they're playing baseball.
Oh.
Or something like that.
Okay. I can protect you if you change me.
I mean, that's definitely like a real thought she had.
It's definitely a real thought, but was it said in Twilight or a really good fan fiction?
Maybe a really good fan fiction.
It's real.
I knew it was real, and then I knew it was real. I thought it was too. I was too intellectual that I was like, that's too many real ones in a row.
You've been doing great.
Because I know she said shit like that all the time. She thought she was gonna be like.
I'm convinced that like some of these probably also showed up in fan fiction, and some of the fan fiction probably also showed up in like the books at least.
Yeah, she said a lot of shit.
I took a deep breath, resolute in my decision, but but feeling my poor abused heart shattering all over again.
That's fan fiction. She never felt like she was abused. She was. I don't think she felt that way.
That is correct. It is fan fiction. I've chosen my life. I want to start living it.
That doesn't sound like her. I feel like is that a fan fiction?
It's not a fan fiction. That's
really?
Real, apparently. Which I feel like I can see her saying that to Edward. She's like, you keep on stopping me from what I do. I have a life. I want to start living it.
But resolute in my decision, the only decision she ever talks about is becoming a vampire.
No, resolute was the previous one.
Wait, say it again.
I've chosen my life. I want to start living it.
That just doesn't seem... It always seems like she's just waiting.
Yeah.
Until she is a vampire. Like, she's not trying to live.
The way that I read it, because again, I don't know when this was said, is sort of like her saying, I want to start doing something, but even if she was given that freedom, she still wouldn't be doing anything.
Right.
It's
that's... Yeah.
Her fighting for her own freedoms that she's not...
Yeah, I think she just liked being boring. When she was alive, especially. So that's why I had a hard time believing that one.
All right, which one's next? Some say, actually, I think you know this one, but some say the world will end in fire.
Oh.
Someday in ice. From what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who that favor fire. Which I'm assuming is the other part of the Robert Frost quote.
Yeah, that one's
I was
heavily
just like,
eclipsed.
this is way too poetic to be just straight from Bella.
No, it's straight up like Robert Frost. Like the whole time, it's like she's been studying for the same like English test, and it's when they go to the meadow, especially like it's
yes, I remember the meadow.
Yeah, and they make the decision like they know it's gonna happen eventually. Well, they get engaged, and then which also that engagement ring.
I don't remember that.
Abysmal. No.
Oh, I do remember it being ugly. I don't remember what it looked like.
For someone who knows about all the banks, who has all the information, and a surgeon father.
Yeah.
No. Awful.
The gaping hole he'd left where my heart had been was suddenly filled, but instead of the light and the warmth he had once brought back to it, it was left cold and black.
Because I feel like if she were to have said this, it would have been sometime in New Moon after he left. I feel like that's fan fiction.
It is fan fiction.
It is, yeah. She doesn't talk like that. She's not like...
I just laugh at all your pauses because the fact that like 90% of this reads as fan fiction.
Yeah.
And so far it's been like 60% real.
Yeah.
It says so much.
These books were written really quickly.
Yeah.
2 of them were written in like a year and a half, like the first 2.
That sounds familiar.
They were written
I just
really
remember
fast.
my mom buying them. And I think they were all in Spanish too. They're in my... For whatever reason, I had a bookshelf in my bedroom, even though not a single one of those books are mine. And just, I remember I think she had the first 3. And they just took up such a prominent place in the bookcase that is like all I could think of. Okay, now we're getting to the very difficult section.
Uh-huh.
All right, are you ready?
Yeah.
I was at the World Trade Center on the 72nd floor of the South Tower that tragic Tuesday on September 11th, 2001.
That's hard. No, that's gotta be like a really fucked up fanfic. Oh my god! Wait, what floor did they hit? That's below the plane?
I don't remember. I think so. I think that line is actually from Edward.
Well, it's gotta be.
And he like zoomed out at some point. He stayed for a while because apparently he was worried about getting fired, even though the North Tower had already been hit.
Fired? Wasn't he in high school?
Not in this fan fiction.
Yikes.
The fan fiction read like the precept was like 9/11 just happened and I wanted to do something to honor that memory. So I wrote.
Oh wait, I thought all the movies came out after 9/11 though.
Yeah, I think it starts like 2003 or whatever.
Yeah.
But just the idea that
wow.
I was like, I want to pay homage.
Never forget.
I want to pay homage to 9/11 by writing 9/11 Twilight fan fiction.
That's crazy.
All right. I don't think you guessed. Is it fan fiction?
No, it's fan. I think it's fan fiction.
Wow, that's.
I don't think
that's so sharp of you. It is in fact fan fiction. Mike ended up scoring the winning touchdown, but I didn't realize it until later because I didn't understand football.
Oh, it's definitely something she would say, but I don't think she ever attended. I'm going to say that that's fan fiction because I don't think that she ever attended anything at that high school.
It is fan fiction.
Okay,
I thought it was going to be obvious. There's just a line, because I didn't understand football. I didn't know when the goal was.
No, but that totally sounds like something she would
fair.
say.
That's so fair.
That totally sounds like something she would say. However, I don't remember her showing up to any high school sports. And also, I don't think that she would show up to a high school sport. No, nor would she be paying enough attention to Mike or any other player to recognize even that something may have happened that he had done.
Right.
Like, she didn't even pay attention to him when they were on that date in the movie theater, and then she told him to ask somebody else out. So all right.
Eddie, don't go. I need to tell you something. Belle throws a cream pie at Edward. I never loved you. I like Jacob. Jake, get your werewolf butt over here.
Is that from Vampires Suck? Like, I mean, it's definitely fake, but
It's just one of the fan fictions I read.
Eddie.
I want to see what... I think I took a picture of like the whole conversation. Oh, no, did I not? It was like so bad. Because it was like, all right, Edward, you're dating me now. And I'm going to call you Eddie whether you like it or not.
Oh, that's Eddie. That never occurred to me.
Yeah.
I was like, different. Okay, I was like, they made up a character. There's been no... Okay.
And Edward's like, no, I hate Eddie.
He would.
Oh, and I think that's where that fanfic ended. Edward thought it was ugly to make sex with man person, but he had to save Belle, so he remarked, okay, let's do it. And Dracula dropped his robe to the ground. Then they started to kiss, and they had sex for 6 hours, and it was good.
I feel like...
Because this could be the books as well. This could be any of the Twilight books.
I know. I feel like that is Midnight Sun translated into German back to English. Final answer.
I think it was a fan fiction called like Twilight Sun or something like that. It had a very nice name, and then just all spelling and reasonable author thought just went out the window. All that went out the window, like some victims in 9/11.
Oh,
anyway,
fuck. Not Edward, though. Not Edward, though. Edward refused to be a victim of 9/11.
He waited a while because he wanted to be a good employer. He just got out of high school, but he knew when to get out.
He knew how. Alice didn't see it coming. Alice wasn't watching Al Qaeda.
Alice was a part.
They had to be
9/11.
intentional. Well, she certainly didn't prevent 9/11 as she maybe could have.
Yeah. Has Alice ever been able to prevent a vision? I think it's usually just ambiguous enough that like it can be what you think is going to happen can be prevented.
Well, her thing was that she had to be watching certain people's decisions. So I remember during Breaking Dawn, part of it was that they were watching the Volturi, they were watching the other family, they were watching Irina specifically because she had gone there. They were watching a few other things because they were all concerned about Renesmee. And so Edward was like, I need you to watch this person too. And Alice was like, if I'm watching too many people, things are going to fall through the cracks. I can't monitor all of this. So if she didn't know that she should be watching Al Qaeda, she wasn't going to be watching Al Qaeda. Like she wasn't going to just know about.
I forgot that's what we were talking about.
Yeah.
It was such a poignant.
It was a real point until it wasn't. But if she didn't know to do that, she wouldn't be doing that.
Yeah. We can't hold Alice responsible for everything that happens.
Yeah. Unless I feel like she never even saw like too far into the future. It wasn't like crazy far. So if Edward had been working in the Twin Towers, I don't know how, like, and he was planning on going to work that day. I don't know how many days in advance she could have anticipated that. So like if it was like the night before.
Unlike St. John when Alice says don't go into work tomorrow.
If Alice had been watching his decisions on the night before, saw Edward running out of the North Tower, if she had seen that, she would have been like, oh, like, hey, don't. But I don't think she would have used that information to like help people. I don't think she would have called. But also, like, who would have believed?
Yeah.
If you could predict 9/11. Have you ever seen that thing that's like, it's like a family, they're in an apartment and they're drinking, like, they're about to drink something like warm beer or whatever, and it's like the morning, and then the daughter looks at the window and she starts screaming, and it's like the towers of 9/11, like the first tower is falling. Like,
That's not.
I need to find that. That would be that. It's just the way it is just, it's real. It's fun. It is funny.
Well, we're getting in our last couple of minutes of our wonderful Twilight episode. Is there any last thoughts or just like anything that you wanted to touch before we end this episode today?
I do. I think that just a personal story that I love to tell people. I think that Bring Dawn Part 1 is the best movie. Mm-hmm. Bring Dawn Part 2, though, I think I was like 12 or 13 when it came out, and I had a science test the next day, and my mom took me and my friends to see like the midnight showing when it first came out because we were just like that into it. And then that weekend, one of my friends and I went to see it with my mom, and then there was a showing directly after, and my mom snuck us in the second show. So I saw it twice in a row in the same day. Like, I spent 4 hours
after
watching that.
After a midnight showing.
It wasn't right the day after.
Okay,
I think it was like the weekend after that,
Okay.
because I think it came out on like a Wednesday or Thursday or something crazy like that. And that was the first time I had ever done anything like that. So I was committed. I had the dolls. I had the Bella bride doll. I think I still have it somewhere. Like, I hope one day that gets valuable. And just they were good movies. They've truly stood the test of time. Like, they really have, quite honestly. It's really hilarious.
Yeah. Do you think, how many people do you think were watching this just in complete earnest, that are not enjoying it through any ironic or camp lens?
I think,
at least at the time, there had to have been some.
Oh, at the time, I think it was like everyone. At the time, I think everyone was taking it seriously. I was taking it seriously.
I guess even when my mom showed it to me, I was taking them seriously. I guess, much like Edward, we needed our front lobe to develop. And
yeah, because I didn't think that we really understood, like, how we didn't, and also like the internet wasn't the same.
Yeah,
the internet hadn't like jaded everyone towards that sense of humor, and even though we were too young to even have been on it long enough for it to affect us like that. So I think everyone at the time was definitely taking it seriously. I think the only people who take it seriously now either have like that really sick obsession kind of thing with it, or they are now only 12 themselves and they're discovering it for the first time. But I don't even know if people have the capacity to appreciate it the way. I mean, well, Midnight Sun I didn't read that yet, but it only came out. It didn't come out that long ago. Like, this is still like a serious, ongoing thing that's happening. It's good. It'll be around for a while.
It started before us, and it's gonna be here long after we're gone.
Well, I think that's what Stephanie Meyer intended. Well, Stephanie Meyer didn't intend anything. She kind of had a dream and ran with it.
Mm-hmm. And aren't we all thankful for that?
I am. I definitely am. I think Bring Dawn Part 1 was the first time I ever watched a movie in the same room as my mom where like a sex scene was happening.
I can't imagine watching that with my parents.
Like, I was in, my sister and I used to share a room at the time, and I don't know where my sister was, but like I was in my bed, my mom was in my sister's bed, and I had a little TV that like there was no cable or there were no channels, so it was only DVD. Mm-hmm. And we did that, and she was just like, I just need you to close your eyes, like I need you to know that you're not seeing it. And it's like when like Edward's like on top, and like apparently they painted over like his ass crack to get that shot, and it was like the first, like they're on their honeymoon, so it was the first time they were having it. And I was just like, for me it wasn't that bad because I felt like I was old enough, like everyone knew what everything was about. And I just thought it was just like, oh, it
for me,
makes
I was
sense.
probably just learning about sex because I was 19 when I first saw it. Yeah.
The natural age.
The natural age, yeah. Anyway, on that note, I think this is where we're going to end our episode. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you, Nicole, for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.
A wonderful gab session indeed.
Absolutely. Love to yap.
Yeah. All right. I guess we'll see you all next week then.
Bye.
Bye.